What if the warmest and most beautiful places on Earth were the most dangerous? Think of the places people dream of escaping to when life gets heavy. The turquoise waters of island coastlines, the dense emerald rainforests, the jungles that hum with unseen life. Now imagine those places are not destinations at all, but warnings. Imagine the phrase, tropical vacation, doesn't mean rest, but death. Imagine a world where stepping under a palm tree, wading into a river, or simply lying on a warm stretch of sand is equivalent to voluntarily entering the territory of a creature waiting with the patience of deep time. Because in a very real, very scientifically logical alternate world, that is exactly how Earth would be if Titanoboa had never gone extinct. Titanoboa was not just a snake. Calling it a snake feels like trying to describe a hurricane as a breeze. This was a serpent 42 feet long, weighing more than 2,500 pounds, as thick around as a telephone pole, and armed with the pure brute structural power of a muscle system evolved to kill by pressure alone. No venom, no chase, no dramatic display, just one silent decision to wrap around you, and that was the end of your story. Your ribs would fold inward, your organs would compress, your heartbeat would collapse. You would not scream, because you would not have the breath to. Titanoboa did not need aggression. Its existence alone was enough. But here is the fragile thread of fate. Titanoboa thrived in the Paleocene epoch because the Earth was hotter then, humid, swampy, steamy, almost greenhouse-like. The world was a heat-soaked paradise for reptiles, and then, gradually, Earth cooled. Not dramatically, not catastrophically, just enough. A few degrees. A shift so subtle that if you time-traveled, you might not notice anything at all. But for Titanoboa, those few degrees were the difference between dominance and disappearance. If that cooling had not occurred, if the thermostat of the planet had stayed just slightly higher, Titanoboa would still be here. And if Titanoboa were still here, everything we understand about human civilization would collapse instantly. Entire regions of the planet, the entire tropical belt, would simply never belong to us. Picture a map of Earth and draw a thick band around the equator. Central America, most of South America, Central Africa, Southeast Asia, Northern Australia. All of it becomes uninhabitable. Because humans cannot share space with a predator that can climb, swim, wait, hide, and crush. Any warm region with dense vegetation or abundant water becomes a perfect hunting environment for Titanoboa. Well, what about us? Will we even be alive? Humans are warm-blooded, soft-bodied, slow, extremely detectable meals. Billions of people who currently live in those regions simply would not exist because their ancestors would have been eaten long before forming civilizations. So in this world, humanity clusters into cooler climates out of necessity. We have become a cold-weather species. Cultures grow in places where winters act like walls. Snow becomes safety. Frost becomes freedom. Children grow up hearing stories not about wolves or ghosts or forest spirits, but about the warm lands, the forbidden green belt, the place where the air feels thick on your skin and the ground may shift beneath your feet. The tropics become mythic, not because they are unknown, but because they are known too well. Now imagine trying to build a city in this world, any city even touching the edge of a warm climate. Every building must be raised high above the ground because Titanoboa can climb and can press its weight against walls until they buckle. Houses sit on concrete stilts 15 to 20 feet up, not for aesthetics but survival. Every door frame is designed with reinforced steel. Every window is protected with bars spaced just barely wide enough to allow airflow, but not enough space for a serpent's ribs to contract and squeeze through. Sewers must be engineered like fortifications, because an underground pipe is simply a covered tunnel to a predator that moves like water and likes to hunt in dark, constricted spaces. The idea of a ground-level entrance to a house becomes laughable. The ground is not where humans go. The ground belongs to the serpent. And now think about agriculture. Think about farming in a world where the very act of stepping into a field could mean death. Bananas, sugarcane, coffee, cocoa, mango, papaya, coconut, rice are gone from daily life because the regions that produce them are the same regions where Titanoboa thrives. Picture a farmer entering his banana grove at dawn, and the fallen log beside him suddenly moving, coiling, and ending him before he even understands. There is simply absence. Another human removed from the world in a place where no one can hear anything over the rustling leaves. As a result, a single chocolate bar becomes rarer than gold. A cup of coffee becomes a luxury only heads of state drink. Breakfast changes, diets change, cultural rituals change. Humanity loses flavor, color, and variety. The global palate becomes cold climate blandness. Bread, roots, hardy vegetables, grains that can grow where frost keeps serpents away. Transportation, too, becomes a nightmare. Roads laid through warm regions become basking strips, perfect for heat-loving predators. Imagine driving at dusk, and your headlights fall across a shape on the road that looks like a log. Then the log moves. Then the log lifts its head. Then you realize the road is not blocked. It is alive. Trains derail not because of faulty engineering, but because a creature weighing over a ton decided to stretch across the tracks to warm itself. Air travel becomes the only safe way to cross the forbidden belt, and airports in warm zones require elite teams to patrol landing strips at all hours. The Panama Canal and Suez Canal? Never built. Construction crews would not survive the first week. Global trade routes become longer, slower, more expensive. Entire economies realign. Scientific research becomes nearly impossible in the very regions that contain the most biological diversity. The rainforest holds cures to diseases we haven't discovered yet. But in this world, those cures remain locked away in a green vault, patrolled by silent, patient predators. Humanity becomes smaller, not just in land, but in knowledge. And here is where the world takes its strangest cultural turn. Warmth becomes associated with terror. People do not dream of summer, they dread it. Children grow up loving the bite of cold air because it means safety. People tell stories of the tropics the way we tell ghost stories. Not to entertain, but to warn. Entire languages form metaphors around cold as life and heat as death. Climate change discussions do not revolve around melting ice and rising seas. They revolve around the fear of the warm belt expanding. A hot summer might mean Titanoboas migrate north. A year of elevated global temperatures could mean evacuation orders. Families in border regions keep temperature sensors outside their homes the way we keep smoke detectors. Every news broadcast ends with updates, not on storms or tides, but on how close the serpents are now. And if the warmth spreads far enough, human civilization shrinks again. The habitable zone contracts. Humanity becomes cornered by a creature that never needed to evolve past crushing force and silence. So now the quiet realization settles in. Soft, unsettling, impossible to ignore. Titanoboa is gone not because something defeated it, not because it was flawed, not because evolution replaced it. Titanoboa disappeared because Earth got slightly cooler, because the world shifted just enough for us to step into the warm lands without being swallowed. Coffee exists because Titanoboa does not. Chocolate exists because Titanoboa does not. Tropical beaches exist as vacation spots instead of death traps because Titanoboa does not. We did not conquer the tropics. We inherited them by accident. And once you understand that, warmth itself becomes something fragile, borrowed, temporary, because the only thing standing between paradise and predator territory is a few degrees.